Special meeting of the Redmond City Council held on Tuesday, March 19th, 2024, commencing at 6:30 p.m. Council members in attendance are Council President Kritzer, Council Vice President Forsyth, Council Member Stewart, Council Member Nueva Camina, Council Member Salahuddin, and Council Member Fields. This special meeting is being held to interview Planning Commission candidates Adam Coleman, Brian Copley, and Denise Gagner. No, not Ian. See, I was going to read it. Jeff Churchill, staff liaison, will introduce the candidates.
Thank you, Mayor Bernie, and good evening, council members. On behalf of Planning and Community Development Department.
Chip, you should be able to hear. Yeah. Thank you.
I am pleased to introduce 3 Planning Commission candidates. Each would bring a unique professional background, lived experience, and voice to the commission. We believe they will contribute to thoughtful and effective discussions on land use issues. Adam Coleman is a 14-year resident of Redmond. He was the vice chair of the volunteer Redmond 2050 Community Advisory Committee for about 3 years. Adam came prepared and offered valuable contributions, helping to create a better Redmond 2050 product that you are all now reviewing. 30 years in market research enables him to bring critical thinking and analytical skills to problem solving with a focus on efficiently serving the needs of others. Brian Copley is a 40-year resident of the Puget Sound area and moved to Redmond during the COVID pandemic. Brian volunteered with the Seattle Symphony for several years and is currently a member of the Commercial Real Estate Development Association. He is a frequent speaker at universities on matters related to the intersection of real estate and artificial intelligence. And Denise Gagner is a 13-year resident of Redmond. She works as an attorney representing clients in both civil and criminal court and also serves as a judge pro tem in King County District Court and Des Moines Municipal Court. Denise brings an equity-oriented perspective that stems from this work experience. And I will now turn the mic over to the candidates so that they can briefly share why they are interested in serving on the Planning Commission.
And if you might, just for a moment, I need to ask the audience to really remain quiet. We are in session right now. Thank you. We'll just start with Ms. Gagner.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Denise Gagner. I have been a resident of Redmond since 2010. I'm raising my family here. My daughter is a student at Redmond Middle School. My son is at Norman Rockwell Elementary School. I've been heavily involved in the PTA. I'm a small business owner. My family loves Redmond. We love living here. We love finding new and fun activities to do, and it would be my pleasure to serve on the Planning Commission. And when the time comes, I'm happy to answer any questions that folks might have.
Good evening. My name is Adam Coleman. I'm a resident, similar length of time to Denise here in Redmond. My wife and I both work here in Redmond itself. Our son has gone through the schooling system here. He's now at Western Washington University. I don't know where the time went, but he really has enjoyed his time here in Redmond, made some great friends. Very similar sentiments to Denise in terms of we love where we live, but as well, for me, it's like at the moment, giving back at this time, I think is really important. And I've seen a number of you here in terms of being in front of you with the Redmond 2050 committee, and part of that is the driving factor for me to want to take that experience on a little bit further here in the Planning Commission, because we've seen some of the plans, and it's good to see where we can take them from here. So that's one of the things that I'm most interested in trying to do.
All right, we'll try again. Good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Copley, and I've been a resident of Redmond for 4 years, since 2020. My wife and I decided that we were going to start a family and lived in Seattle at the time and looked at essentially all the cities outside Seattle and where we might do that, and we decided on Redmond. I've spent the last 8 years looking at land use for about 150 cities in the United States, building a product that looks at how cities use land. And when I approached volunteering for the city of Redmond, I was trying to figure out where I might actually add value. And so this seemed to be the best fit for the things that I've spent my time on the last 8 years. And I think now is a really important time, or a very critical juncture in our city, given the light rail is coming and given all of the implications of that. And so I think it's a really exciting time, but it's a time that we need to really focus and put our minds to making sure that Redmond remains an amazing place.
Thank you all so much. Are there questions from the council? Councilmember Fields.
Thank you. So this is the first time I'm in my 7th year on council. This is the first time I've seen 3 people at the same time applying for the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission is really important for the city of Redmond, and the council relies heavily on the work that you do. But I'm going to go back to that 3 new people thing. What do you see as your organizing skills to actually reshape the work and begin the work that the Planning Commission is going to be doing in the next 4 years? And how will, 3 new people, how will that affect on how you approach the senior members or the members that are currently there?
I'm happy to start.
Go ahead, Brian.
I think the most important thing I'll be doing for the first 3 to 6 months is listening and learning from the senior members. And that's just something that I've repeated in the process of interviewing with the Planning Commission, is that we have a lot of people who have been on the commission for a long time. And we can learn a lot from them just by keeping our ears open and reading a lot. We were told there's a lot of reading involved, which is great. I'm excited about that. But really listening first and trying to understand what happens and how it works, and then trying to maybe contribute a little further in once we understand how things work.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Brian. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I would, same as Brian, I think as well in terms of listening to the other folks first. With the other experience that I've had on the 2050 committee, I have a reasonable understanding, I think, of the comprehensive plan, et cetera. So for me, that aspect is hopefully helpful. I can bring some of that thinking in here. But you asked specifically about organizational aspects. I think having 3 new people brings new, fresh ideas and thinking. That's one thing. The other thing I'm hoping I can bring is I'm pretty comfortable in ambiguity with the work that I do, which is probably similar for the 3 of us. But that is actually helpful, I think, in being able to bring people together. So there's never necessarily a one-size-fits-all approach to things. So that degree of needing compromise, finding the right path, is something I hope I could bring as well to organizationally.
Great.
I have no illusions that I'm going to jump in and shape anything. My belief is that, similar, the first several months will be spent learning, listening, digesting, and reading a lot. And the organizational skills that I bring to it are my professional background as an attorney. I'm very comfortable digesting boring materials, maybe, and digesting it in a way, thinking critically, asking questions. If there are 3 new people on the committee, I'm somebody who's very, very comfortable with respectful dissent. I think that a big part of learning is asking questions, not in a way that is antagonistic, but it helped me learn and help me understand. And through the process of meeting with the staff, I felt very much at ease that this is going to be a great opportunity, that when I don't know things, which I expect will be the first several months, that there's a platform and support network in place so that I can come up to speed and become a more shaping and contributing member as the months pass.
Thank you. And, listening to both the humility of all 3 of you and the confidence that you will be able to bring what your perspectives and your ideas and your skills to make an immediate impact is, I think, really important. And the only other thing I would say is probably the materials are boring. No, I know that they're boring. But the outcomes are not. So thank you.
Thank you. Council President.
Well, thank you to you all for volunteering for this position. It definitely is a lot of work, and so appreciated to bringing your perspectives. I actually started my time with the city on the Planning Commission before I was a council member, so I can really appreciate all the time you put in. One thing that I noticed that was similar about the 3 of you is that you all are parents. One thing that we often have questions and discussions about in our community, which is one that so many people move to be able to raise their families, is just as we grow, how we think about making sure that we maintain a great quality of life and a vibrancy in our community for youth and families, as well as the rest of the community. But curious to get your thoughts in particular around kind of youth and families. What are some things that you would want to see and talk about of how we kind of envision what we might need as we grow?
As I shared, I'm a parent. I have a middle schooler, and my goodness, watching her change and develop as she starts middle school helps me understand what's just around the corner in terms of driving, in terms of her desire to be much more free. I come from, I think, twofold, a public safety perspective. I'm a recovering prosecutor, current criminal defense attorney, and so I believe in public safety. I don't think that that necessarily means that all things have to be crime-free, but that our city is safe for all citizens, that our city is safe for our families, our city is safe for our children, our city is safe for folks who are new arrivals, our city is safe for folks who need resources and who need to access resources like mental health, who need to access resources like substance abuse. And so the perspective that I come from is as a parent, but also somebody who's done direct services work with clients who rely on communities and cities to lift them up. And so that's what I'm excited to learn more about and hopefully effectuate as a planning commissioner.
I think just maybe to add to that as well, for me, some of it is wanting your children to ultimately feel this is their home. I know that's certainly the case for our son, even though he's moved away and maybe he'll move away further at some point. We hope not too far. But at the same time, feeling that it's affordable to be able to live where you grew up. I know I look at my hometown in the UK, that is certainly the case. And I think Redmond is a struggle for people at that age group when they want to come back potentially to be able to do that. So I think affordability and housing affordability to be able to enable people to feel like this is their home and you can come and live and work and stay here, I think would be one thing for me that I'd also add to that I think is important for us to consider for the next generation and the one after that.
I've got 5 kids, 3 are teens, and I have a 2-year-old and a 4-month-old. And so I've seen many stages of raising children. And what I really hope for our kids, not just my wife and mine, but also our city's kids, is that this city would serve as a bridge of opportunity to all of them. And I think that it's really critical that we make all of our decisions on the Planning Commission and in any public office looking through that lens first. And so I think that would be the primary lens that I would probably use when thinking about things that are important on the Planning Commission and otherwise. And yeah, I think being a parent will help in this role.
Thank you. Questions? Any other questions? Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you so much for applying to serve on our Planning Commission. And as has already been discussed, I'm so glad that you all love to read and there's so many research skills. And on paper, one thing that I got really excited about was the way that you all complement one another. So as you join the Planning Commission as a cohort, I see someone with a bunch of technical expertise on how land code works. I see someone who has already invested years of service in building our comprehensive plan and now will be on the commission to help us deploy it and adapt it as needed, and someone with terrific research skills. And again, that emphasis on youth, I'm really appreciative of my colleague for bringing that up. One of the pieces of feedback we've been hearing more and more from the community is not just a kid. This is a great place to raise your kids. Everybody knows that about Redmond. And now having more spaces that are also relevant for teens, and that whole spectrum of youth development is something we're hearing about more and more from our community. So I'm really glad that the complement of the three of you brings a really comprehensive new set of skills and experience to the team. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Councilmember Nueva Camino.
Hi, thank you all three. Adam, it's so wonderful to see you again sitting at the table. Adam and I were able to begin to get to know each other while I was serving on the commission. So when I saw your name come in, I was very happy and was hoping that it was going to be a good fit for everyone. Echoing what Councilmember Stewart said about how well the three of you complement each other with the varying skills, and that you all are married, which of course many of our greatest strengths can also be our biggest weaknesses. With all of you having a collective traditional family view or something that is more mainstream, how will you keep in mind families or living situations that are less traditional or maybe alternative?
I can start with that.
Yeah, please.
So before I lived in Redmond, I lived in Seattle for 7 years. And many of my neighbors, best friends, people that I've built a lot of relationships with over the years have been people that have non-traditional families. So I don't think it would be much of a stretch for us. My wife's from the DC area. She wasn't born here in Washington. And she has a lot of friends that she still stays connected to that, I would say live any kind of lifestyle that suits them, and we're completely fine with that. So I think that it's really critical for us to think about Redmond as open to any type of lifestyle and any kind of person who wants to come here and, make this a place that they work or raise a family or start a business.
Similar, we have friends with lots of different types of living situations and lifestyles, either here or elsewhere. I also would just add, I've traveled a lot in my life, and other countries not like America. So once you get an understanding of how other people live and the struggles that they have, we're very lucky to live where we do, but not everybody is necessarily at times too in terms of their own situation. So taking an outside-in view and understanding context like that, I think is super important as well, as just looking at what's happening here in Redmond, actually bringing some of that context in would be helpful too.
I don't know why this is complicated for me. One of the most eye-opening experiences that I reflect on in the time that I had volunteered with the PTA is one of the first events that I helped to work on. We connected with our school counselor and made sure that we understood how many free tickets families might need for the barbecue that cost $10. And this was about 6 years ago. And I think it was a slap in the face for me to understand how naive I was to assume that in the community that I live in with the $1 million, sometimes multi-million-dollar homes that are surrounding Rockwell Elementary School, just how many folks couldn't, that $10 was a hardship. So the time that I spent connecting with our school counselor and understanding that 17% of the families who attend the schools rely on scholarships and rely on services. So that was sort of a beginning point for me opening my eyes and understanding better and staying committed to make sure that everything that we do and still do as a PTA, make sure that all of our events, all of our resources are accessible in every way that means. Accessible when we did the book fair to make sure that families who have kiddos who might be overstimulated in crowded situations can have time at the book fair, that families who have mobility issues, that they can access the books in the same way. And so I personally have an interest, a passion, a commitment to that. And so I appreciate the question.
Can I add one other thing? So thank you for sharing that. One of the things that I would like to have said as well is I was a treasurer at the Redmond Lacrosse Club for a couple of 2 or 3 years, and lacrosse is one of those sports where you need helmet and a net, or a stick and all those sorts of things. You think, well, that must be easy to get. Well, it's not, and it surprised me how many of the kids that came to play that we needed to find equipment for them, find kit for them, provide assistance in terms of being able to pay to come and play, and give scholarships out in this area, and as well as sort of canvassing as well in some of the races here and going around the city. I think Redmond is at the time I did it the first time, was surprisingly different than I expected. There's so many different types of communities and living situations in the city that I didn't know until I did that. And I think that's just something else I wanted to add, because I feel that's an important thing for us to appreciate as we're thinking about our role as a commissioner.
Thank you all very much. Councilmember Forsyth?
My fellow council members did a great job of asking brilliant questions, and so I don't really have any questions because they did a great job. But I just want to say I'm really refreshed to hear all of your responses, your mindfulness, your thoughtfulness, your understanding of the complexities of our community, and I look forward to affirming your appointments.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are just about out of time, so we can get ready for the business meeting. Are there any other questions for these lovely candidates? Seeing none, I see smiles around the room. I think we're in good shape. Thank you, Council, for the great questions. That was really wonderful. Thank you for the fantastic answers. And with that, I look forward to having you on the consent agenda next week. And if you show up, we can take pictures, if you bring your family, and then our city clerk will swear you in, and you'll be part of our planning commission. I think one now, and then one when the 2 other seats open up. So with that, it's 2 weeks? It's in 2 weeks, thank you, in 2 weeks. because tonight's a business meeting, yes. And with that, we are adjourned.
All right, thank you.